Welcome to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by Cars.com. Here's your MotorWeek podcast host, John Davis.
Welcome, everyone, to our MotorWeek podcast number 15. I'm John Davis, and joining me around the table in Studio C today, our reporter, Yolanda Vasquez.
Hello there. Hola.
I was going to say, you say hello?
Hola.
Now, Yolanda's going to be talking with us about one of the cars that we're going to be discussing today, and she'll be joined by our road test producer, Brian Robinson.
Hello.
And our associate producer and jack of all trades, Ben Davis.
Good to be back.
And we're going to do a lightning round at the end of the podcast, and we'll take a viewer question. But let's get going with some of the latest vehicles that we've been testing on MotorWeek. A really cool vehicle that's caught a lot of attention very quickly and some early awards, and I have to admit I've kind of fallen in love with it myself. The Kia Soul. Ben, what do you think
cool
about it?
Very cool car indeed. When I first saw it in the parking lot, I was a little skeptical. It did grow on me, however.
What does it look like?
It is quite cute. Well, it's much in line with this Scion XB. It's the latest in the new square
offerings,
but rounded here and there. A modernized square of a car. It's very popular these days, of course. Tons of cargo room, plenty of comfort, incredible fuel economy. Anyway, when I first saw it, I was skeptical, and then it did grow on me.
Did you like the interior? That's gotten a lot of note.
The dash is, at first sight, I thought it was a little Ferrari Enzo-esque. The materials are much better looking than they actually are. It's a really well done dash. Gaps are really tight.
Has like a kind of like a boogie board type shape.
It puts a lot of flavor into an otherwise dull class of vehicle, I guess.
And you can get the speakers that light up. I mean, it's got things that I would have never dreamed of putting in a car.
I thought the interior was really nice.
Yeah. Did you have a chance to drive it?
You know, I did, and I spent so much time. I went and got my iPod, and by the way, I think it has a great iPod connectivity interface, the way that it's set up. And I put it in, and the flashing speakers just, I mean, you got me at go. And I was in that car jamming. The photographer, Dave Hunter, will tell you, he's like, Yoli, get out of the car now. We've got to shoot it. I was jamming in that ride. I really liked it.
You know, we had a chance to drive them around South Beach in Florida, and I have to say it turned a lot of heads.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because you looked at it and say, it doesn't take up a lot of space, gets good gas mileage, it's cute. It's got kind of a masky, kind of scowly face, but overall it's pretty cute. And I think, and it's the best quality Kia interior we've ever seen.
And the warranty is amazing.
Yeah, 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain, so I think they've got a real winner.
What about the commercial with the hamsters that we see? That is just hysterical. What great marketing.
Yeah, if you haven't seen that, basically it opens up with everybody, all the hamsters in a cage like they're going nowhere, and then the cool hamsters drive up in the Soul. And they had 26 of them, I think, at the New York Auto Show roaming the streets of Manhattan, clogging up and getting...
Souls or hamsters?
Yeah,
very good.
No, I was
actually, they were souls, but they may have been driven by large hamsters. I'm not really sure. But all the taxi cab guys were... and the ladies were honking at them to get out of the way. But pretty cool ad.
Yeah. Do you think it's going to compete with the Scion, or is it?
It's going to compete with the Scion. It'll compete with the new Nissan Cube,
yeah.
which comes out. Honda Elements.
And Honda Fit, too, maybe.
Could be.
To attract some of those customers.
Yeah, lots of room on the inside. Very good. Moving on to our second car, another small people mover that's been around a while, but it's gotten freshened, and we've got a road test coming up, the Mazda5. Brian?
The Mazda5, yes. Small people mover. It's a real minivan to me. You think of the Grand Caravan or Honda Odyssey, there's really nothing mini about them. They're huge, but this is a small, almost half-size Grand Caravan minivan. It's got the sliding doors.
Just like a regular minivan.
Yeah. I guess it's considered a small wagon, I guess, by the EPA, but it does have the sliding doors, which makes it nice. I guess it's for young, active lifestyle buyers that we all hear about all the time that need lots of room.
Now, it's got 3 rows of seats.
It's got 3 rows.
So it'll sit 6 people, sort of?
Yeah, well, third row is only for very small children or people that don't believe in comfort. But the second row...
I don't believe in comfort.
Yeah. The second row is captain's chairs only, which to me that's kind of a miss. Just it's nice to have a bench if you want 5 people. Then you don't necessarily have to put someone in the rear, but it's only 2 seats in the center.
What I thought was cool about those CISOs, they do slide forward and back, and they recline.
Yeah.
Right. So the legroom wasn't really a problem.
Yeah. As far as crossovers go, I mean, I love the sliding door, especially in some of these crossovers. The rear doors are really big, and when you've got kids that are still mastering the art of opening a door carefully,
I can't tell you how.
Yeah, sliding doors are awesome.
Sliding doors are in that situation.
It's been out for a while, like you say, but you hardly ever see them. I'm not. I don't know if people have seen many of them around or not, but they're out there. The styling is kind of similar to the Lumina APVs. You remember, like the
the anteaters. The anteaters.
Yeah, it's similar to that, but obviously a little nicer.
I think it's much better looking than that.
Yeah, it's got a 2.3 liter 4-cylinder. And it's fine scooting around town. It's pretty fun to drive. When you get loading it up with some people and some cargo, it can be a little underpowered, but daily driving.
Yeah, it was a little pokey at the track, but I recommend it to a lot of folks that are looking at things like Elements and RAV4s and say, here's something you may not have thought of, and it's a little sportier, and it's got V-rated street tires on it. So it's got some of the pretense of the Mazda Zoom that they spend so much time talking about.
Yeah, it's not like top heavy at all as you're expecting with like a normal minivan.
Really cool. Yeah. Thanks, Brian. Yolanda, a vehicle that just about anybody, especially you, I would say, but anybody would look great in this vehicle, the Infiniti G Convertible.
I gotta get one.
It is a beautiful piece of work.
It really is. I mean, I haven't met a convertible that I haven't liked ever in my life. And I would say that this is a good addition to the Infiniti lineup. I mean, it really goes in line with their inspired performance tagline, which is huge for Infiniti. And they've done some really nice stuff with it. I mean, tremendous performance, beautiful style and value. It's the same engine that powers the other G products. It's a good four-season car, although I don't know if they've been up to Maryland in the cold or other places in Minneapolis. So I think it's really more of a warm-weather car, in my opinion.
So it's a Florida car.
I think so, or a California car.
California car.
I was in L.A. for this press event, and they need to put a sign up that says, "Welcome to Infiniti Land." I mean, every third or fourth car in L.A. is an Infiniti. It just really is. So I think this will work well on the East Coast, too. But Infiniti reps talked extensively about how when the convertible was up, you couldn't tell that it was a convertible, the hardtop convertible. And they had this unique clamshell stack design that's a little bit different. So they kept pressing and pressing about how it looks like a coupe, it looks like a coupe, it doesn't look like a convertible. I don't see where that mattered too much to me, but that seemed to be a big deal.
It's a big thing with a lot of the new hardtop convertibles that the folks that own them want to give the impression that they basically have the sportier hardtop model. So they've gone to this enormous pains to make sure the profile is the same. Okay. It does seem to be marketing. I guess it must have shown up as some important in some study group.
Absolutely.
But when the top's down, there's a downside to all these hardtop convertibles. So.
There is a drawback. I mean, you have 2 cubic feet of cargo space. Two
versus 14 or 15 in a lot of cars.
Yes, and Infiniti seems to believe that people are willing to compromise on that for the style and performance of the vehicle. I beg to differ. And the whole idea is that this is kind of a weekend runabout car. This is something that you would take to go on a 1 gallon or whatever, a few gallon tank trip versus something that you would drive each and every day.
So
and
throw the bags in the back seat.
Yeah, absolutely. But have you seen what
it's too small grocery
looks
bags.
like? If even. I mean, it's really, really tiny. And we did notice a little bit of sluggish performance. I think I mentioned this a little on the acceleration on some of the hills when we were in Mulholland Freeway. And I thought it was just on steep inclines, but it really seemed to have a difficult time keeping up.
Well, they added a lot of weight to the car.
Yeah, and that could be part of the reason.
To strengthen it. It's like 400 plus pounds, so it's pretty heavy.
Yeah, that could be part of it. I think pricing is going to make or break this vehicle.
When the top was down, though, a lot of these hardtop convertibles, because the top takes up so room, they look almost like they've got a bustle back in their rear. Did the car to you look as good with the top down as it did top up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yes, it did.
I think they did a nice job.
I think they did a fantastic job. And pricing, I mean, they were talking about, mid-40s, low 40s for this vehicle, perhaps when the pricing comes out. That may be difficult because then I start thinking, well, for that price, I could get a BMW 3 Series or an Audi A4. Which would I prefer? So pricing, I think, is going to be big on this Infiniti G37. But it was a nice, smooth ride. Oh, and I've got to tell you, one last thing was about their Bose sound system. They've got 13 speakers that come around, 4 of which are stuck in the head restraint. So there is nothing like jamming out to your favorite song in a drop top down in L.A. Let me tell you right now.
I think this lady liked the car. She liked L.A.
I did. I love L.A.
How did Vanilla Ice sound through that?
Ice, baby.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Yolanda. Thanks, Ben, for the little side comment there. Okay, now We started this on our previous podcast. We're going to give it another crack, and we've all got the wax out of our ears so we can hear the bell. This is called our lightning round. We've got 2 minutes to kind of do a free-for-all on an automotive topic that I'm going to throw out in just a second. And then, as we did last time with Michelle Parker, our producer, when she rings the bell, I guess we will try and be good little boys and girls, Michelle, and not ignore you over there. Can't ignore that. Okay, here's the deal. Electric cars. Everybody's talking about them. We're seeing them at the auto shows, all this promise. Fad, or is there really electric propulsion in our automotive future? And I mean, within the next 3 or 4 years. Who wants to start? Brian?
Yeah, I wouldn't say 3 or 4 years, but it's inevitable that we're going to get there eventually, I think.
Why?
Customers want it.
Yeah, we can't burn fuel forever. We started out on steam, went to gas, and it's time to move on to something else.
What about the whole idea of battery anxiety, people being afraid that they'll get in their electric car and run out of juice?
Well, there's no doubt that battery power and the efficiency of battery power is a key issue when it comes to EVs. That and also mile range. I mean, each car wants to do this one-upsmanship of, I can do 40-mile range, I can do this, I can do that. And then it's like, well, can you deliver the goods? I mean, in all honesty, what is it? The majority of motorists, travel, 60 miles?
Less than that, 40.
40 miles, a day?
Round trip a day.
Round trip a day. So, I mean, how much mile range do you really need?
That's where they're getting this 40-mile range for like the Volt and some of the Toyota plug-in hybrids. But can you see people giving up gasoline or diesel-powered cars totally, or is this just going to be a commuter car? Ben?
That's where I want to chime in. There's going to be a market for it, obviously. But for somebody like me who's a true purist, like many other people here at this table, until the electric car can offer the same back-road thrills as, say, a Miata Roadster, I won't be a buyer. That might be 10, 15 years down the road when that finally the purest feel and battery merge. Mm-hmm. Until then, though.
But we at our house we have a subcompact that we use for most of our runnings of errands where you're not going to carry something big home. And we probably go, into town and back and do about 25 miles, maybe 30 on a really unusual trip. And you're thinking, why couldn't this be electric if it can be affordable? And I think that's the big question.
Second or third car status, you mean?
Definitely,
yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And, of course, a lot of people say, well, one more comment. They say, what are you going to do when you get to work? Where are you going to plug it in? Well, I think that's going to open up a whole new entrepreneurship.
Yeah, infrastructure is a big thing, but I think a lot of car manufacturers are pinning their hopes on EVs, and they're here to come, and they will be staying soon enough. I believe that.
Not too much.
It's going to take some entrepreneurs. I mean, basically, these car designers are kind of stuck in doing the same thing over and over again, or trying to figure out how we can adapt electricity to the cars we have. I mean, I think it's going to take someone to get it affordable and something that everyone wants to buy. It's going to take someone thinking outside of the box and coming up with something that everyone wants to have, like something like an iPod, something that's just totally out there, and everyone's like, I got to have that. That's what it's going to take.
That's a good point. I also think that this idea that's been floating around about electric companies actually leasing you the batteries so that you can lower the cost of the vehicle. Yeah. There's going to be some government incentives, but to get the price of the vehicle down to where a typical gas car is, you don't have to buy these batteries. They could be leased and they could be recycled. And, you would think maybe somebody ought to be looking into that, and I guess probably maybe somebody is. All right.
I was going to ask you about the Chevrolet Volt. What's the status on that?
Volt is 18 months from now or less, the end of 2010. It will be in production. The one thing GM says that they are not scrimping on is development. Okay. They're building, I've forgotten whether it's 10, I think it's 10 drivable prototypes right now that the press will be allowed to drive later this year, and they will look like real cars. They won't be mules. Okay. And so it looks like that's full steam ahead. The question there is, of course, even with government subsidies, can they sell it at a reasonable price? And I guess the government task force has concluded it will still be expensive. But it's new technology, and even if it is $40,000 to start, it'll be just like the first hybrids. They'll be expensive, and the price will come down as they develop the technology. And it's an extended range hybrid. We should tell everybody it has the 40-mile range just on electric, but then you can go up to 600 miles with a small gas engine that will keep the battery batteries recharged. And that very much is what we're talking about when we're talking about perhaps the future of electric cars, pure electric for running around town, but these extended electrics that still have some kind of a generator, whether it's gas, diesel, or even a fuel cell to keep the batteries charged for long trips. Okay. We started this other feature new on our last podcast that we're going to continue, and that is we're going to answer a viewer question. Now, if you've got a viewer question or a viewer question, listen to me, this is audio. If you've got a audio question that for our podcast, or if you want to suggest a topic for our lightning round, you can go to our website, www.motorweek.org, or go to pbs.org/motorweek and submit your question for either the podcast lightning round or for the chance to win a MotorWeek t-shirt. Ta-da! Which is the question we've got. Now, we've got a question from Jim. He didn't give us his address, so we may have a hard time. I guess we've got his email address, so we can get in touch with him. I'm sure he's listening too. Okay, here's the question from Jim. Would you answer or discuss? This is a Pat Goss question. What is variable valve timing? Would you please explain how it works and the advantages of VVT? I'm not sure we have a long enough program, but who wants to take a crack at that?
Well, you're the rocket scientist. Maybe you
should
jump in there first.
All right. Well, in a nutshell, Jim, variable valve timing is a system where in many vehicles, the intake and exhaust valves, sometimes it's just one or the other, open and close at different rates depending on how you're driving the car. The idea behind it is to increase airflow when you're at low RPMs to get a better burn of the fuel and lower emissions, and to control the airflow into the cylinders at higher RPM so you can get maximum performance and, again, better fuel economy. So the big thing you get out of variable valve timing is cleaner burns, a bit more power, and a bit more fuel economy. I think I got that right. Anybody else have that?
Yeah, that's a lot more than what I got.
But your variable valve timing has now become very common. It started slowly. You can probably look at Honda probably being the promoter of it more than anything else. It came from racing. The valves are usually controlled by a combination of electronic and hydraulic controls. And the big problem with internal combustion engines is they often basically don't breathe very well at low RPMs, and they breathe too well at high RPMs, and this controls it. I think we got that right. I'm not sure that's the engineering parlance, but Jim, we hope that helps answer your question. Okay, I guess that about wraps up our MotorWeek podcast number 15. Thanks to everybody in the studio, Ben Davis, Brian Robinson, and Yolanda Vasquez. Thanks very much, folks, for all your comments. And I want to thank our audio engineer, Jim Bigwood, our podcast creator, Bob Mixter, and over on the bell, our producer, Michelle Parker. And that's cute, Michelle. Thank you for listening to our MotorWeek podcast, and we hope you'll join us again soon for more MotorWeek.
You have been listening to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by Cars.com. For additional information on podcasts, videos, and showtimes, visit our website at MotorWeek.org. And watch MotorWeek, television's longest-running automotive magazine series each week on your local PBS station.